My name is Faith Twyford, and when I was 17, my family moved 2 states away without telling me. I came home from my diner shift on a Tuesday night in March, turned my key in the same sticky lock I'd been fighting since 8th grade, and stepped into a house with no furniture, no photographs, and no people in it. On the kitchen counter, under a magnet shaped like a cardinal, my mom had left one torn-off note from her grocery pad. It said, "You'll figure it out." No address, no phone call, no explanation for why my family packed a truck while I was pouring coffee for strangers. It took me 12 years to build a life out of what they left behind. Then one article with my face in it brought them back to my door, and what my mother did next was worse than the note. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where women tell the stories their families hoped they would keep quiet. Stories about betrayal, boundaries, and finding the people who actually stay. If you have ever been the strong one nobody checked on, this story is for you. Drop a comment, tell me where you're listening from, and be sure to subscribe, because you will want to hear how this ends. I stood in the doorway for a long time before I could make myself walk through my own house. The living room carpet still held the dents where the couch had been, 4 little dimples in a rectangle, like the room was remembering furniture that had already crossed a state line. The television was gone. The recliner was gone. The wall going up the stairs was a line of pale rectangles where the family pictures used to hang. And I remember touching one of those clean spots like it might still be warm. They took the photo of Caleb in his football uniform. They took the one of my parents at Niagara Falls. The only frame left in the house was face down on the hallway floor. And when I turned it over, it was my school portrait from junior year, just mine. Upstairs, my room was untouched, my bed made, my clothes hanging exactly where I'd left them that morning. And that detail scared me more than the empty rooms did because it meant somebody had packed around me. Somebody had carried boxes past my door and decided what I'd need. I went back down to the kitchen and read the note again under the cardinal magnet. "You'll figure it out." My mom's grocery pad, the one with the sunflowers on the border. I called her cell phone standing right there at the counter. It rang 4 times, then voicemail. I called again. 2 rings, voicemail. The 3rd time, it went straight to that flat robot voice, and I understood at 17 years old, holding a note in a kitchen that still smelled like our last dinner, that my mother had just watched my name light up her phone and press decline. Then somebody knocked on the front door hard. It was Mr. Hollis, the landlord, holding a folder and looking embarrassed to be alive. He said my dad had called him that morning to close out the lease. Rent was paid through the end of June, and my parents had told him I'd be staying with relatives until school let out. Relatives. I stood there in my diner apron smelling like burnt coffee, while a grown man explained my own life to me, and I did the thing I would spend years learning not to do. I said I was fine. After he left, I called the police because I want that on the record. People hear this story and think I just curled up and took it, and I did not. A young officer came out, took one look around, and got quiet the way people do when the rules and the right thing aren't the same shape. I was 17 years and 9 months old. The rent was paid. There was food in the pantry, technically, if you count crackers and a jar of pickles. He said the words "not technically abandonment" to me in my own kitchen, and to his credit he looked sick saying them. He offered to call children's services and I said okay, and they promised a call back, because a girl with a job and a roof and 90 days until her birthday is nobody's emergency. That night I slept in my own bed in an empty house listening to the furnace click. And my last thought before I went under was a question that would take me 12 years to stop asking. What did I do? In the morning, I checked the garage and it was empty, too. Except for one piece of paper taped to the wall where my dad's toolbox used to sit. To make sense of that piece of paper, I have to back up 2 years. My dad, Dale, spent 26 years as a machinist at the plant in Maple Glen, Ohio. And when the plant closed, it closed the way a heart stops with the whole town standing around it. He was 47, and suddenly worth $11 an hour at the hardware store. My brother Caleb was the family's good news back then. 18, handsome, a knee like a hinge made by God until a bad tackle tore it apart his freshman year of college. Surgery, then pills for the pain, then pills for the pills. By the time I was 16, I knew what it meant when Caleb's music was too loud. And I knew which of my mom's smiles was real and which one was for the neighbors. I was working at the Copper Kettle by then, saving tips in a shoebox in my closet. A roll of bills I counted every Sunday like some girls said prayers. $1,900 for a car for college applications. For a life. One Sunday morning, the shoebox weighed nothing. I stood in the kitchen shaking and I told my mom. And here is the part people never believe. She didn't deny it. Didn't even flinch. She kept wiping the counter and said, "Your brother is drowning, Faith." Like it was a weather report. Like the money had simply flowed downhill to the person who needed it. The way everything in our house flowed downhill toward Caleb. And my job was to stand on dry ground and be glad I could swim. I was 16 years old. And that was the morning I learned the family math. There were children who got saved and there were children who did the saving. And my mother had decided which one I was before I was old enough to vote. Here's what I need you to understand about the weeks before they left, because for years I put myself on trial for missing it. I didn't miss it. 6 weeks before that Tuesday, boxes started stacking up in the garage, taped and labeled in my mom's church bulletin handwriting. I asked her about them straight out at the dinner table in front of everybody. She smiled and said the church was collecting for a spring yard sale, honey, and did I want to donate my old winter coat? Caleb disappeared for days at a stretch that February. And when I asked, it was a program through the church, a retreat, a men's group. My mom started taking phone calls in the backyard with the door shut behind her, standing by the frozen tomato beds in her house slippers. I asked her a second time flat out who she kept talking to. She looked me right in the eye and said, "Aunt Ro, baby." Her hips acting up. She lied to me the way you'd iron a tablecloth. Smooth, patient, no wrinkles left for me to grab. Understand? I was a 17-year-old with a curfew and a W-2, asking direct questions, and getting fed answers by the two adults who had legal custody of my whole existence. There's no detective work that beats your own mother's face. The piece of paper in the garage, the one taped where the toolbox used to be, was a receipt from Maple Glen Storage, Unit 118, 6 months paid in advance, made out in my dad's name. At the time, I thought it was trash they had forgotten. It would take me a long time to do the math on the date printed at the top, because that receipt was from January. They had rented their getaway storage before Valentine's Day. I lasted in that house until the end of June, working doubles through the spring. And when the lease ran out, I had $400, 2 duffel bags, and nowhere legal to be. So, I rode my bike 2 miles in the rain to Maple Glen Storage, because Unit 118 was the only thing on earth with my family's name on it that hadn't left town. The receipt was still good. The unit was 10 feet by 10 feet, and when I rolled up that door, I met everything my family hadn't wanted. The old brown couch with the burn hole. Boxes marked Christmas in my mom's handwriting. My dad's broken shop fan, a folding lawn chair. They took the family and they left me the things they didn't want. And I want to tell you, I saw the poetry in that right away. But mostly, I just got out of the rain. I slept that first night on the brown couch under my own winter coat. The one my mom had tried to donate. Surrounded by the leftovers of people who were 2 states away and not answering their phones. Before I slept, I did one small thing that turned out to matter. I took the note, "You'll figure it out," and the storage receipt, and I put them in an empty folder's coffee can. I